Hello, everyone. If you could please take your seats, we'll get started. Welcome to our service from the Unitarian Society of Northampton and Florence. My name is Teresa Amabile, and I'm the worship liaison for this service. If you are new or returning after a time away, we're glad to see you. Please feel free to fill out a blue welcome card, which you can put in the offering plate later in the service. There is a link to an online version in the chat. We'll put you on our mailing list, and you can receive emails about all that we do. We strive to be a congregation that welcomes people of all ages, races, religious beliefs, backgrounds, sexual orientations, gender identities, and abilities. We belong to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, and we are guided and inspired by its values and principles. Our values and principles move us to remember that those of us in the Pioneer Valley live on the unceded homeland of Pecumtuck, Nonotuck, and Western Nipmuc peoples. We acknowledge our responsibility to confront the legacies of dispossession and systemic racism that are part of our collective history. And we affirm and celebrate the many legacies that inspire us. We have drawing materials and other ways to occupy hands on the tables in the back. Restrooms are downstairs and reach through one of these doors. You can either take the stairs or an elevator and return the same way. We're here to celebrate, to reflect, and to support one another. It is good to be together. And now we'll begin our service.
Morning. Today's opening words are from Walt Whitman. Did you too, O friend, suppose democracy was only for elections, for politics, and for a party name? I say democracy is only of use that it may come to its flower and fruit in manners, in the highest forms of interaction between people, in religion, literature, and schools. Democracy in all public and private life.
Please rise in body or in spirit as we light our chalice. These words were inspired by Parker J. Palmer. We light our chalice, understanding that we are all in this together, that everyone has value, and together we are creating a beloved community where everyone's voice has power and is heard loud and clear. Please remain standing for our hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are, number 188. Lover of leaving.
Good morning. Our story this morning is Something Someday by poet and activist Amanda Gorman, who I'm guessing a lot of you have heard of and been inspired by. And the illustrations are by Christian Robinson, who has illustrated a lot of current picture books, so you might recognize his work. USNF The Vote reached out for a story for the service today, and this one seemed like the perfect antidote to the despair that a lot of us are feeling these days, and a great description of how our community and others have come together to make a difference. Anybody else is welcome to come closer if you want to see the pictures here, but they'll also be on the screen. Something Someday. You are told that this is not a problem, but you're sure there's something wrong. You are told this cannot be fixed, but you know that you can help. You are told that this is too big for you, but you've seen the tiniest things make a huge difference. And if you can't see, there's a tiny ant making a huge difference on that donut. You're told that this won't work, but how will you know if you never try? You're told to sit and wait, but you know that people have already waited too long. You're told that what's going on is very, very sad, but you're not just sad. You're scared and confused. You're angry. and maybe, just maybe, a little hopeful. Just to make sure you can see, there's a little dandelion sprouting up there. You're told not to hope, but you keep hoping anyway. Curious if there are hopers out there. I think there's a lot of you. Sometimes you feel like you're all alone, but someday, somewhere, you find a friend, someone who will hope with you, who believes in your dream, someone who will fight with you. You make a promise to each other. You say, there is a problem, but it's our problem together, so we can fix it together. This problem is big, but together we are bigger. You make another friend, and you tell them, it's okay to be sad. And they tell you, sometimes we'll lose, but that's all right. We'll try again. And so you do. Together, working, together, beginning, over and over and over and over, until you're no longer beginning. You're winning. So this garden has tomatoes and sunflowers and thistle and kale and pollinators. Suddenly, there's something you're sure is right, something you know you helped fix, something small that changed, something big, something that worked, something that makes you feel hopeful, happy, and loved. Something that is not a dream, but the day you live in. Something that makes you smile as you tell someone else. And there in the middle of that neighborhood is this little garden that they built. The end.
What a great story, Jessica. Thank you. And now it's time for us to greet one another. Everyone in the Great Hall, please turn around and wave to our friends on Zoom. The camera's up there before greeting the people around you. If you're on Zoom, feel free to turn on your videos, wave, and say hello in the chat. It's helpful to switch to gallery view. Anyone online or here in person who is new or newish and would like to, please say hello and tell us where you're from. Hi, Claire. Mark. Hey, Jane. Good to see you. Mary Beth. Rick. Hi, Rick. Eleanor. Lori. Great to see you. Hi, Kim. Peggy. Sally. Hello, Sally. Alan. Andrea. Alice. Hi. Hi, Gil. Hi, Evelyn. Laura. Good to see you, Laura. Sally. Gregory. Hi, Gail and John. Good to know you're with us. Hello, North Carolina. Hey, Chris. Rich West. Hey. Hello, George Friday. Glad to have you with us. So good to see everybody. Happy Sunday, Susan Reitman says. Hi, Evelyn. Nice to see you. It's been good to see everyone. Please, online, remember to turn off your videos. And now it's time for everyone going to religious education activities to leave us. Please join in singing them out. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Please go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
I'm Rebecca Curzon. In my former congregation, my kids had to do coming of age credos, so I consider this the credo I never had to give, so you can call it my coming of aging credo. For much of my life, it was easy to take democracy for granted. Growing up, I perceived a life of enough. As far as I knew, we mainly had what we needed. Both my parents had livelihoods, they paid taxes, they bought and sold the family residence when we had to move, and we had one reliable car, and then two. They voted. My father worked for Adlai Stevenson's campaign in Washington State. My stepfather worked for John Kennedy's. We debated stuff at the dinner table, but never from the standpoint of deprivation. The system, whatever that was, gave me no concern whatsoever. I never had to fight to claim my place in the scheme of things. Even when I saw poverty or homelessness, I didn't really associate it with success or failure of democracy. I couldn't really value something that I didn't understand. As I matured, I began to see the continual arcs of struggle, confrontation, evidence, partial remedy, and more struggle. Yet when I thought about democracy at all, it remained abstract. I heard phrases such as, nothing less than our democracy is at stake, or our democracy is in peril. Okay, now what? What narrowed the disconnect between concept and reality was becoming a UU 3 decades ago. My congregation helped me learn the meaning of community, of beloved community, how I must serve it, learn from it, raise my kids in it, be honest in it. That community called us to nourish tolerance and respect and love for the humanness of things. Church was instruction in the idea that human systems, no matter the size, diversity, or need, should work in good faith on behalf of all members, whether the system is a congregation, a family, a workplace, a country. It all boiled down to how we relate to each other. As my all-time favorite bumper sticker says, you can either be right or you can be in relationship. Democracy began to feel as if it were about relationship, about the methods and structures we put in place to enable relationship at scale, where the means have integrity and the ends reflect the needs and will of the people, with compromise at its core. You can either be right or you can be in relationship. Also powerful for me was instruction I received a few years ago as a volunteer with a national voter protection organization. I learned to interview voters and document their stories in written legal declarations. The approved final draft was reviewed and signed by the person. Then the organization included sets of these documents in media packets, drafts of legislation, and court filings, this latter being the only time a person's name was not redacted. Declarations were private, secure, and critical as evidence. We've all heard this or that story of the gritty world of voting in a place that doesn't really want you to. But these courageous people, willing to share all the blunt and frustrating facts of what was, to me, as simple as checking out a library book, it brought home to me the peril that we face. These were people trying to be active members of the human system that is our country, and facing the same kinds of orchestrated, insidious, and often brutal obstacles that have been used for a very long time. A sad moment for me concerned a voter who described concerns about the privacy of her personal information when she voted at her local polling place. After I sent her the final declaration, she eventually replied that she could not sign it because her family expressed concerns about her causing trouble. With her name on the declaration, her family was afraid of repercussions. She was African American. Good trouble, even in this protected situation, was not something her people could live with. She was a voter, or she wouldn't have been on my list. To feel powerless to speak the truth is a terrible way to live. So from where I stand now, the heart of democracy is relationship. When voting is made more accessible and routine, it strengthens a form of relationship between citizens and civil servants. When votes are not diluted by partisan manipulation of districts, it solidifies the relationship between citizens and those people who are truly well-positioned to represent them. When those representatives are influenced by constituents and data, not by money, the relationship can be transparent and productive. If we can normalize these things, I believe that our ability to be in relationship in the context of democracy will endure. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning. Do you know that donated meals are served every Sunday night, rain, snow, or shine, on the sidewalk in front of First Churches in this town? Anyone can come and eat. The meals are donated by many diverse religious and civic groups and organizations throughout Western Mass. Cathedral in the Night has been organizing these meals for 13 years, every single Sunday. So what is this Cathedral in the Night you have read about, perhaps in the Beacon or the Sunday Times? It is the ministry of two dynamic Christian women here in town. In their words, Cathedral in the Night seeks to create a safe place for all people to gather for a meal and empower one another to engage in issues of social justice by working to fight the causes of inequality and homelessness. My name is Barbara Smith, and I like to feed people. I organize our meal donation for 100 people about 5 times a year for Cathedral in the Night. Anyone here can either cook the selected dish at home or join us downstairs in the kitchen. We are donating one more time this church year. It's for next Sunday, May 5th's meal. Volunteers here will be cooking the meal next Friday morning, 10 to 11:30 in our kitchens. Join us. Desserts, water bottles, sandwiches of any kind are also needed. Grocery card script is always appreciated to help defray costs. Please look for the sign-up links in the Beacon and Sunday Times, and join in this effort to have no person in our town go to bed hungry. Please talk to myself or Jessica for details and any more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Our generosity makes everything we do possible, and it helps us support organizations and movements in the greater community. Half of the proceeds of each week's offering support the Society's operating budget, and half are shared outside our walls. The organizations we are currently supporting are listed on the screen. Our morning offering will now be given and gratefully received. Our meditation this morning will be offered by Austin Porter.
Yes, I am Austin Porter. I haven't been in the sanctuary since before COVID, so it's a bit strange, but nice to be here. Hi. I'm going to read something by John Lewis from his book, Across the Bridge, A Vision for Change and the Future of America. Freedom is not a state, it is an act. It is not some enchanted garden perched on a distant plateau where we can finally sit down and rest. Freedom is the continuous action we must all take, and each generation must do its part to create an even more fair, more just society. We'll now take a moment together in silence. Thank you.
Democracy and me. What a novel coupling. I could see children's legal rights in me, or modern slavery in me, or endangered birds in me, but democracy in me? Well, this assignment from the persuasive Dave Reutemann has led me down a new path of stock taking and remembering. There were 4 children in my family growing up. We were always on the lookout for unfairness. We were apt to be so vocal on that score that Mother, when she came from the kitchen carrying the chocolate icebox cake for dessert, would bring a yardstick to the table to preclude any squabbling over who got the biggest piece. Equality was a fundamental family value. My father voted Republican, and it was whispered that my mother voted Democratic. A book about Gandhi I read as a 10-year-old began my lifelong awareness of inequality, which shaped my life and my life's work. As a 23-year-old mother of 2, I started with the others a movement to create daycare centers where none existed in the state of Connecticut. I volunteered to help Black teen mothers not become pregnant again. I founded a law center to stick up for poor children in high conflict custody cases. I ran groups for abused children and adults who were abused as children. I joined the Transition Town movement. the League of Women Voters, the United Nations Association, the Green Party, and any organization dedicated to strengthening inclusive community. Boy, as I went along, I found that any signs of great wealth became increasingly abhorrent. I have to shut my eyes and look another way. I can't bear the sight of yachts, for example, or private airplanes. And anything in print detailing the salaries of CEOs in this country causes me to shut my eyes and quickly turn the page. Drawn by the non-hierarchical nature of Quakerism, where all have equal access to the divine and are equally regarded as ministers, I signed right up. And it was, when I moved here, a very easy slide into this equally egalitarian community. Once I was living in Northampton, I became a supporter of Truth School and even led a seminar on Timothy Snyder's book On Tyranny, which outlined the scary indicators of the US's slide into fascism. Very important influence when I moved here was just reading a book by Carol Dansereau called What It Will Take: Overcoming False Friends and Dead Ends in the Fight to Save the Earth. She was brilliant in bringing forth all the dreadful ways capitalism works to increase the distance between the haves and the have-nots. She said, "We have to change how we fight and what we're demanding. It's time to move beyond capitalism and the class-based inequities in wealth and power it engenders. We must unite for economic democracy and the political democracy that comes with it." She believes that we need to get beyond capitalism and fight for socialism, join socialist organizations to establish the democracy we want. So that's what I did. I joined the Social Democrats USA, now a small national group trying to gain traction once again. From grassroots activism to legislative endeavors, advocates strive for a fairer society in this organization. And the resurgence of interest in social democracy is exemplified by movements like Occupy Wall Street and the Bernie Sanders campaign, which underscores its enduring relevance. Well, now, at the age of 86, what? Pickleball. Now, how does that fit in with the theme of today? I've just given a lot of money to help build the new courts in Northampton, not only because I love to play, but because the huge pickleball community here exemplifies the best principles of democracy. All are welcome. The experienced players help the beginners. There's a strong ethic around fairness, inclusion, and mutual support. We learn and remember other players' names. No expensive equipment is needed. It's really such a feeling of we're all in it together, and we all have a sense of belonging. Oh, by the way, I just want to tell you that we're holding a donation fundraiser next Sunday at 1:30 at College Church right here in town. And maybe you'd like to come and be a spectator or a player to get a sense of what I'm talking about. Come see what's on the rise here at Pickleballers. You're going to take over.
Judy, you're always full of wonderful surprises. Please rise in body or spirit for hymn number 305, De Coloris.
In the springtime with Yes, the colors of people who know that their freedom is I'm now going to introduce our guest, Jose Maldonado Velez from Neighbor to Neighbor. First, though, we want you all to know that after this service, we'll gather in the parlor room for an orientation to Neighbor. This is an opportunity not only to learn more, but also to see if volunteering with Neighbor to Neighbor is something that's right for you. So a few words about Jose, who is a lifelong Holyoker. I was interested to read in Jose's bio about his belief that people are not the problem. The oppressive systems challenging our worth, paths, and power are the problem. Jose served as city councilor at large in Holyoke from 2022 to 2024, and he also served as manager of victim and survivor services at Enlace de Familias. Jose has a background in the arts, education, and social justice, earned a degree in sociology from Bryant University, and became a member of Neighbor to Neighbor in 2020. Now, as the community organizer, he brings his passion for justice and community empowerment to the forefront. Welcome, Jose.
Thank you, everyone. So every time we have a meeting with Neighbor to Neighbor, sometimes our intro question is, how are you showing up? So I'm gonna answer that question for y'all. And for me, I'm feeling a little unprepared. I've had this opportunity since 2 months ago, and for some reason, every time I try to sit down to write what I'm gonna write, nothing came to mind, right? A lot of times when members from Holyoke, people from Holyoke that grow up in the city are invited into spaces in places like Northampton, a lot of times there's a lot of trauma dumping. A lot of, hey, this is how horrible my life has been, can you come help us, be the white savior? And I refused to continue doing that, and I think that was part of the reason why I wasn't able to write anything down. But there's also another thing that always happens in Neighbor to Neighbor meetings, and we always have a check-in at the end, and sometimes the check-in is, what did you learn, what did you take away from this time? So for me, as I was sitting in the back, I was on the phone, I wasn't talking to anyone, I'm on Do Not Disturb. I was actually taking notes. I was listening to the speakers, I was paying attention to what was going on, and try to say, okay, what are the 3 things that I took away from today? So that's what I wanted to share and bring to the space today. But before I even get there, I actually wanted to say, first of all, thank you. Thank you to Kate Krockemeyer. Yes, I see you. Hi. For making the connection. Holyoker, yes. Thank you to Dave for the conversation we had about 2 months ago in preparation for today. Thank you to all the speakers. And thank you for everything that goes into creating this program. I was part of the emails and seeing the back and forth, how much it takes to really create an awesome program like today. And thank you to all of you today, whether on Zoom, whether here in person, for deciding to be here 10 a.m. on a Sunday and making the commitment to show up. When we say a lot of a community and what it means to be in community, this is it. Y'all have created a program, some input, there's opportunities to be involved even beyond this, whether it's a fundraiser, anything else, a volunteer moment. This is what creating community is, coming together towards a common purpose with your 7 principles and being in that shared moment together and deciding to use those shared principles in these moments for good, not just for yourselves, for the community. I grew up a confirmed Catholic, so I did have a little hesitation every time there is an invite into a religious space. But as soon as I came in and saw the big Pride Progress flag in the front, I'm like, I'm in the right space. This is not like other religious institutions. And I appreciate sort of the work that's happening here to change what it means to be a religious institution, right? Because it's a lot of what the work is, what's happening out in the world and try to change the systems. Some Like myself, at times believe the whole thing just needs to come down. Others believe it just needs to be reformed. But either way, this is an example of something that can still be bad in many spaces, can actually be turned into a positive. And I think that's a lot of the work that we as a community and people here want to do out in the world. I want to center power real quick as I'm showing up as a neighbor community organizer. We talk a lot about power and what it means to have power. A lot of time, and if you stay for the orientation, we'll dig a little deeper, but just a brief sort of overview. When we think of power, a lot of times we think of power over someone else, power over their children, power, your parents yourself having power over you, your boss, that's a lot of what we're conditioned into when we think of power. Within Neighbor, we think power, and we, instead of saying power over, we look at power with, power to, power within. So right now we have power with each other. We've created a community, y'all have created a program, you have sung together, have listened to the amazing music together, came together to fill the space. That's power with each other. But in order for that to happen, you need to believe that you have the power to act. So you had to have the power to get out of bed this morning and make it here. You had the power to act. And then finally, we had the power within, which is really what I was hearing a lot of today. And this is why I want to finish with. The power within is, for me, most important, because it's a power that you have to believe in yourself and your own worth, your own dignity, and the power to create the change that's necessary and needed in this world. So, as I mentioned, didn't show up prepared, but I did want to leave with 3 sort of points that I took away from as I'm listening. The first thing that we talk about, and as I'm mentioning power within, is individual worth. So your first principle, when I was going through the principles, the first one was the one that stood out to me the most, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. For me, they've mentioned all the different titles that I've worn in the community. Growing up, I was very involved. And even in all these titles and hats that I was wearing, I still felt like I wasn't worth anything. The time that I came into Neighbor to Neighbor, I was creating and doing the big Black Lives Matter mural down on High Street in Holyoke. And I was getting the volunteers, I was fundraising, I was organizing, I was doing all this, and even then I was like, did not see myself as a leader. I was like, oh, this is just something I'm doing. It took Neighbor, Katie, who was the organizer at the time, to come as a volunteer, reach out to me and invite me into Neighbor, invite me into a moment of one-on-one to really, for me to realize that I am in a leadership position. Right? This organization that is part of Holyoke, that comes into Holyoke, not an extractive relationship, but in a way to really empower the community members to believe in themselves. And it's the first time that I've ever seen that from many different organizations that have come into our city. So that was the first principle for me that I learned, that I took away from me, that I definitely want to bring into other spaces, the inherent worth and dignity of every person, because every single person has worth. Regardless of what their circumstances are, regardless of what their current situations are, everyone deserves to be housed, everyone deserves to be fed, everyone deserves to have educated, access to great jobs, everyone deserves to live in dignity, respect, and be able to do that for themselves and for the community around them. The second thing that I took away from today, and it's something that we talk a lot and that y'all already do within here, and the speaker, and I didn't get the name, I'm so sorry. They said the quote, you can either be right or you can be in relationship. So a lot of times, and thank you for sharing that, because a lot of times we're invited into this space, particularly since 2016, it's how can we get more people to turn out to vote? Statistically, it takes 7 years to get someone that has never voted in their lives to get to the polls, statistically. So, and that's conversations, that's contacts. So the ones that we need to work on are the ones that are getting out to vote. So a lot of times when we're asked, in 2016, how we get more people to vote, yes, we're working on that. But we need to be in deep relationship with the other folks that we may not necessarily agree with. And we're stepping into that right this year. 2016, there was a lot of times, and I know it happened to me. Oh, this person made a Trump post, I'm deleting you off Facebook, and there goes that contact forever. There goes that relationship, right? Yes, I'm not saying what they stand for and what they believe in is right, But if you cut off that relationship, you cut off any opportunity to create any change within that person's life, within that person's mind. So as we're saying that, there is going to be an opportunity with Neighbor to get voter turnout in Holyoke and get more voter turnout for this year and get more, involved in the electoral process. But my ask for members here in the community, in this space, is to rekindle those relationships. That's the only way it's going to be possible to get to the other side. That's going to include a community and a world with all of us. So remember that quote: you can either be right or you can be in a relationship. And the only way that the world's going to change is to truly be in relationship, because we're not always going to be right. Finally, I almost cried actually when they were sharing Jessica was doing the storybook. Because after this, at 2:00, I'm going to go to Dwight Street Garden down in Holyoke, which is a little plot of land down in downtown that came to 2 years ago. So seeing that story and just how much it related to what I'm up to do in 2 hours. Because my thing is, I always tell people, the future that we want, the world that we want, is not necessarily for us. But we are the ones that need to start these conversations, these hard conversations, to get us to that point. For our children, for our nieces, nephews, for the future. It's a little selfish, and I know we want it to be in our lifetime, but the most important thing that we can do is be in deep relationship and realize that what we're doing is planting the seeds. That's what I believe is our core purpose right now. And there's going to be moments. There's going to be moments like the community garden that's going to give us hope. There's going to be moments like when we win campaigns, when we are in the community feeding people, housing people, when we get to those points. Those moments are going to happen. But as a society as a whole, these are seeds that we're planting for the future for all of us, not just us, for all of us. So again, thank you. That's really all I wanted to say, or actually all I wanted to say based on the last hour that I've been here. I do appreciate all the work that you've done. I've spoken with Kate, spoken with Dave. There is opportunities to really get involved. I always say, yes, we want to get into communities like Holyoke, but there's a lot of people also within your own neighborhoods in order to really get to turn out. Because we may get really great statewide elected officials from Holyoke or Springfield or any other city, but statewide decisions are statewide, not just in these communities, right? So thank you so much for the time. And again, thank you for your work, and hope to see some of y'all afterwards.
Thank you so much, Jose. Now please rise in body or spirit for hymn number 1028 in the Singing the Journey hymnal, Fire of Commitment.
Days remembered, burns a beacon bright and clear, guiding hands and hearts and spirits into faith and free from fear. When the fire of In his inspiring book, Healing the Heart of Democracy, The Courage to Create a Politics Worthy of the Human Spirit, I actually brought the book. See, it's kind of dog-eared, marked up. Parker J. Palmer shows how democracy is a lot more than a political process, that it only survives when people practice certain habits of the heart, as he calls them. Habits like deeply understanding that we are all in this together, appreciating the positive value of otherness, and the capacity to create community. Similarly, in the little Little Book, where is that? I brought that too. Anyway, you know that little purple book that has all the principles, and I was so moved that Jose just picked, oh, thank you, here it is. Yeah, that was really cool, Jose, the way you picked up on that. So there's a chapter on democracy, and the author, Earl Holt, says, democracy is more than a mechanism of governance. It's an expression of faith in the power of human beings, to shape their own lives. And in the UUA Article 2 revision, the one summarized on the flip chart downstairs with the flower and love in the center, the heart of democracy is woven into all the values. I was really struck by that. So we have clues. What is the heart of democracy? I hope today has brought more understanding. The question remains, what is the heart of democracy? And how can we live our lives and relate to each other in ways that strengthen and repair rather than corrode and weaken ourselves and democracy itself? So let's use that question. We'll transition from this part of today's service to the next part in the parlor room. Please join Jose, I guess in about 10 minutes, and he will orient us more to the work of Neighbor to Neighbor, what they're doing in Holyoke, and how that lives in the heart of democracy.